Hello, questioners and quintuplets. My name is TB Sky, and welcome to episode 2 of the Patreon Q&A podcast thing, where my VTube avatar hovers in Hyrule while I answer questions. People ask me things, and then I say words into the microphone for a while. Hello, want to ask one of these questions? Patreon or YouTube membership or what? Just get into the Discord, really, with any paid anything, and you can ask questions. I try not to gatekeep it too much, but yeah, I have some questions, and I'm gonna look at them and read them, and then I'm gonna answer the questions, and maybe some pictures come up on screen while we're doing it. Yeah, let's get into it. Shadow Cat Inc. asked me what my favorite food is, and oh boy, picking favorites. It's not a thing I can do. Why do you keep asking me for favorites? I'm bad at them. But I do actually have an answer to this, which it used to be a pasta dish. Like pasta with like spaghetti bolognese. Apologies for the terrible pronunciation. That used to be my favorite thing. Like I could eat so much of that and I would be so happy, except it was causing severe unhappiness, as it turns out, because I have a gluten intolerance, as it turns out. At least I developed one as I've grown older, which is bad. It's not great. So I have been barred from eating things with wheat in them, and that, oh boy, it sucks so much. It sucks so much. So that's annoying. I'm getting old. But there she answered. Now I don't have a favorite food anymore. My body took it away from me. Carissa Warren asked me to please design yourself as a league champion or some famous character person figure adapted to be a league champion. If you don't want to do that, explain why in the Q&A, lol. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing I used to do, honestly. Like, for those of you as don't know, I still think of myself as a comic artist and illustrator. That's why I started doing videos about art and character designs, because that's the stuff I worked with on a daily basis. But now it's been some years since I've had time to do art sort of casually for fun or even for work. So that would be why I don't have time, is why, Carissa. I just don't have time. It's not that I don't want to, especially, it's that I don't have time to do it. I don't have time. Like, my way of expressing my design ideas like that now are the building a better videos. It's like, that's all I have left. Most of my casual art and doodling nowadays happens in conjunction. Like, tabletop games I play with friends and stuff. Like, I just doodle things for that and have fun with it. That's really all. Annie asked, you wanted to ask what I would think of a new Annie, your favorite champion's design should look like, now that she has a somewhat different lore, where she isn't a spoiled Noxian kid from some rich family. Well, I mean, she kind of already has one. Like, Annie Origins, like that particular short, or that but not a short in the YouTube sense, but the short animation, give her that, like the ordinary dress of a little girl that has been sort of torn apart by years living by herself in the wilderness. Like, Annie's story currently is that she is a wild child. Like, she lives in the forests around Noxus with Tibbers watching over her, and whenever she needs new clothes or she wants like a nice bed to sleep in or some food, she will go and find some unsuspecting family and ingratiate herself and be like, oh, I'm a scared little child. And people will generally be sympathetic to her because she's a scared little child in the middle of nowhere. Or she'll just walk into a bar and be like, give me some food. And then when they say no, she burns the entire place down. Because Annie is screwed up. So I think really that's kind of where, in terms of her character design expressing her story, because currently it doesn't. Like, her character design does not express her story even a little bit, because she's wearing a modern, real-world schoolgirl outfit and cat ears with a little backpack. Like, it's very much a holdover from a time when League of Legends wasn't really so aesthetically consistent as it is today. And her design, like, from the perspective of telling her story, is just bad. Like, it's just bad. And so, like, yeah, I would really want them to just, like, genuinely just have her be like a fucked up little kid who's wearing like torn clothes and is kind of dirty and like clearly isn't being taken properly care. Like she is neglected. That's kind of a big part of her story, is that she suffered a lot of neglect, from like not from her dad or even really from her stepmother. Like her stepmother, her reaction, like I don't want to defend her, but like all things considered, she had like good reason to be pretty fucking terrified of Annie by the end of it. Which the unjustifiable part is that she reacted to that fear with abuse, which like you can't do that if you're an adult and there's a child. I don't care how scared you are, you have to do right by them. But like I understand why she was terrified. But like Annie is someone who has suffered severe trauma, and there has been no one to help her cope with it or process it or deal with it in any way. And so she's fucked up and neglected, and like her story is fundamentally very tragic, and her design should really reflect that more. Sophia Adler asks, what's your take on the current direction of champion skins, with skins like Cafe Cutie, Battle Queen, and now Anima Squad, and the way this style of those type of skins are becoming more mainstream for League of Legends? Do you enjoy those, or do you dislike the over-designed nature? I don't know that I would call them over-designed. Some of them are. Like occasionally, some over-designed. Like the Anima Squad skins, like maybe those are a little bit... A few of those maybe pack a little bit too much detail in there, but like in terms of over-designed, no. I don't think they are over-designed as such. And what we're seeing with the skins is actually interesting, because they are all heavily anime aesthetic inspired. And League of Legends didn't used to do that. In fact, the stories I've heard from inside Riot is that there was a bunch of people who had to pitch anime-themed skins for a very long time, because there were some executives who were convinced that, like, oh, why would gamers like anime-themed skins? That's weird. Like, that's not going to be popular. People are not going to like that. Which is also the process that happened with KDA. It's like, what? Gamers? K-pop? No, they don't want to listen to that girly shit. Like was apparently the internal attitude, which also was the attitude with Coven. Like, that the people who pitched Coven had to pitch it really fucking hard, because the people in charge were like, what? No, high fashion skins for the ladies? Who would care about that? That's not gonna be popular. Because the data that they had indicated that that's not what the core fan base was interested in, like that sort of thing. So it's interesting that anime skins now at this point have kind of taken over League of Legends aesthetic, really, because that's really not where League of Legends used to be as a thing. It's also not a surprise. Like, anime is one of the most popular aesthetic directions and aesthetic schools on Earth. So, like, yeah, no, that makes sense. It's also, I think, partly... Like, the Riot has always outsourced a lot of their design work, like, especially like when it comes to skin splashes and things like that. Because they have to. There's really no way for them to produce all of this on their own with the staff that they have. And I think also the process of outsourcing so many art assets has... Like, it's created a need for a much more stylized and consistent design bible for the designs, I think. By which I mean they have had to like establish like these norms and standards for what is a League of Legends skin splash supposed to look like, what's a League of Legends skin character design supposed to look like, so that they can farm that stuff out to all the contractors that they have. Like, I think that's part of it in terms of like this style of skin design and splash sort of really sort of taking over League of Legends a lot. And how do I feel about it? Yeah, I mean, any unipolar... What's the word I'm looking for? Not mainstreaming, but like standardization. Let's call it that. Like any sort of unipolar standardization that sort of aligns everything around one thing, for me, is bad. Because the thing that gives League of Legends strength as an aesthetic, like one of the greatest strengths of the game, has always been that it has a tremendous diversity of design. Like, you have... Like, even in the very early days of League of Legends, you had, like, classic fantasy dudes, and steampunk, and Egyptian gods, and angels, and, like, you had a bunch of sort of, like, pan-Asian inspired stuff, ninjas and samurai and shit. Like, part of the strength of League of Legends as an IP, and Vikings, and pirates, is that it has always included a very broad sort of swath of aesthetics and concepts. And anytime that all sort of gets narrowed down, it's a bad thing for the health of the aesthetic of the game overall. Now, this is skins, so like I'm not really worried about that in terms of like, oh, it's gonna ruin the aesthetic of League of Legends as a whole, because no, like we still get stuff like the Ruined King game, which has a very specific aesthetic. We're still gonna get stuff like Song of Nunu, like Echo Convergence, and whatever the hell the MMO ends up looking like, and Legends of Runeterra has its own very good, interesting visual direction and style. So I'm not so worried about that, but it is a thing of like, yeah, like skins are a thing that get pumped out a little bit on assembly line, because that's the that's the moneymaker for League of Legends, and so that's how it's treated. It's treated as a commercial product, because that's like more than a lot of the other aspects of League of Legends. It's the bit you look at if you want to see the commercialism of the underlying enterprise laid bare. By which I mean, like, yeah, that's gonna happen, but like they make the stuff that their data indicates that there's a demand for it, and that's the stuff that they make. And that's the way it goes. That's why Ornn doesn't have any goddamn skins. Like that's why that happens, is because the primary motivator for those things is money. Which to be fair, like rioters internally will pitch skins for unpopular champions all the time. All the time. Like champions that can't really sell a lot of skins will get pitched skins all the time by rioters internally. And it's not that they don't get pitched. It's not that rioters aren't interested in making them. It's that when time comes to allocate budget for producing skins, the people who count the beans will sit down and go, well, this champion, the data we have indicates they can't sell enough to justify the money it would cost to make this skin, so that's not going to go ahead. That's the way it goes. And yeah, like, but the question you actually asked me, god damn it, was whether I like them or I dislike the over-designed nature. And my answer is, I don't think they're over-designed. Like, that's occasionally a thing that happens. I think the Battle Academia skins suffered from that, especially Leona. Jesus Christ. That skin was vastly, just desperately over-designed. But I like them fine, mostly. Like, I really like Anima Squad Misfortunes splash art, I think it was. Because it like, that did some really interesting stuff with perspective. And like a really interesting way to render the environment that we don't usually see in skin splashes. So like, sometimes some good stuff comes out of it. Manjarart asked, are you perhaps planning to make a video about Pokemon Legends, a short, a gameplay or otherwise? You seem to really have enjoyed the game. I have enjoyed the game. Oh god, Pokemon Legends Arceus is the best Pokemon game. Like, it's just the best one. It is the best one. It's the best Pokemon game. All of the other ones are less good now because Pokemon Arceus decided to respect the player's goddamn time. Yeah, I mean, I'm really not a game reviewer in the classical sense, and aesthetically, Pokemon Legends Arceus is not, like, it's exactly the same aesthetic as Sword and Shield. Like, it really has no... I mean, there's minor differences, like, there's things about, like, the way that they sort of try to make analog that which once was digital, but no, it's firmly planted in the standard Pokemon aesthetic, so, and Pokemon character design, so, like... Yeah, outside of occasionally bringing up the Hisuian forms, which I will with Voltorb and Electrode in the shorts that I'm doing on the Pokemon character designs, don't think I have a video in it, or I don't think I have a video on it in me, is what I was trying to say. Like, I don't know what I would say that would be particularly interesting, because most of my thoughts about Pokemon Legends is just like, oh my fucking thank god, they don't pop up a text box for everything that happens in the game anymore. It's not that, like, my Pokemon gets hit by a move and then, your Pokemon was confused. Your Pokemon is confused. Your Pokemon hurt itself and it's confused. Like, they don't do that anymore. You can just throw your Pokeball at shit and catch it. And, like, if you pick up stuff that's in the world, you throw your Pokeball at a rock, and your Pokemon will go, oh yeah, and smash that rock. And you can just run off in another direction, and it smashes the rock, and it picks up the stuff for you, and the stuff just pops up on the screen, goes like, hey, you got these little things. It doesn't stop the entire game to force you to click through like 8 text boxes that says you found a thing. You picked up the thing. You put the thing inside of the bag pocket on your bag, then you close the bag. You put the backpack back on your bag, and now you can blah blah. Like, none of that. It just respects your time, and that's the best thing. But no, outside of this and my shorts, I don't think I have anything in it on me. Anything on it in me. There we go. Perry 15. Are there any topics, be it franchises or otherwise, that you would want to talk about on your channel but don't feel like it would be worth it? Okay, so there's a few ways to interpret your question there. Because, like, one thing, and this is something I've talked about before, like, I don't really want to talk about anime on my channel. Which is not true. I want to. I desperately want to. I used to. I do want to talk about anime on my channel, but I dare not talk about anime on my channel, because if you talk about anime on your channel, some fucking anime studio in Japan can just decide, oh, I guess we take his channel down now. Like, they can just shower you with copyright strikes, and they can just do that, and they don't give a shit. Because they have a different relationship, like, with content creators than a lot of Western people. Like, so maybe I could talk about something like Castlevania, Arcane, you know, that's fine, but the anime that I watch, the anime that I want to talk about, yeah, not so much, because even, like, you can get copyright claimed for stills. Like, it's not even just footage. It's, like, they can do it if they find still images. Like, I got a copyright strike for a video I made where I showed comic panels from a manga I was reading, and they copyright struck that. You know, so like that's the level. So like for me, that's like, no, that's not worth it. This is my fucking livelihood. I need to pay my rent. I can't risk that. So anime is kind of out. I still want to remake my Bleach video though. Maybe I'll do that. So anime is probably one of the things that's like not worth it. And then outside of that, there's also like there's a bunch of stuff that I do want to talk about on the channel, but wouldn't be worth it sort of in terms of views or economics. At least as far as I can make out. Like there's a bunch of old ass games. Like I keep meaning to, like, I want to do a video on the animation of the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem games, because the combat animations that they had in those games were just like so fucking far beyond what they needed to be, and desperately impressive. I for a long time I've kind of wanted to do a video about games like Transport Tycoon Deluxe, which is one of my formative game memories, but it's like, my audience does not give two shits about that game. Like, it's a game from the 1990s. It's a management sim. My audience just isn't there for that. And like sometimes, like, I do make videos with stuff where I know for sure, for damn sure, that my audience is not going to respond to it. Like, it's not what my audience want, it's not what they're here for, and it's going to be much less views, and I'm going to take a little bit of a hit in the algorithm where the algorithm goes, oh, his videos aren't popular anymore for a second. You know, like sometimes I make that sacrifice intentionally because I just want to talk about a thing. But like a lot of the things I want to talk about is like, it's stuff that I do want to talk about, but it's just not, I'm not so passionate about it that I'm willing to take the hit and the opportunity cost for it. And that's, yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of being a content creator for a job, is that I cannot simply just make content about the things I personally enjoy all the time. Like that's the myth of being a content creator. Oh, you can just do whatever you want. No, you can't. Not when your rent depends on it. No, you can't. You have to play the game of the business. So like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that. Old cartoons that I watched. Like I kept meaning to do a video on, I mean, I don't know if Americans would know this, but in Denmark he's called Rasmus Rapp. I think the English name is like Alfred J. Quack or something along those lines, and it's this animated series that's based on, I think it's a series of Dutch children's books or something. Like it's some fucking hella obscure European thing that had a really nice aesthetic and animation. It was animated in Japan. It is technically an anime because it sort of exists within the visual style, and that was one of my first introductions to the style of anime ever, was that and the Moomin cartoon, which were animated in Japan, were animated within the aesthetic purview of anime, and I didn't know that as a kid. Like I thought for a long time that my first exposure to anime was Pokemon. Like the Pokemon anime, and that's certainly the first one I can remember where I go, oh wait, shit, that's definitely something different. Like this is definitely something up like that's very notably different from Western cartooning in a way that Alfred J. Quack and the Moomins maybe weren't. But like those shows, if I could find the fucking footage from Alfred J. Quack, it's like there's barely some on YouTube, but where I would be able to actually get a hold of episodes, I have no idea. Like I've sort of been tempted to do that, but again, no one in my audience is here for that. And it's not like I'm passionate about that show. I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that from when I was a kid. That's interesting. And the same thing goes for like European comics. Gammelpot, what the hell is he called? I don't know what he's called in other languages, but Gammelpot is like, that's a Dutch comic, I know. which has lovely artwork. Like it has like a really cool sort of European fantasy aesthetic, sort of based in the late Renaissance rather than strictly in the medieval period. And it's just a kid's comic, like a children's comic. There's stuff like Spirou, which in Danish is called Splint and Company, with like the comics of Francois, the comics of Gaston Lagaffe. Which is a Belgian humor comic that I really loved as a kid. Like, those things I've kind of wanted to take a look at, those like ink aesthetic comic books. But again, my audience isn't really there for that. Like, it's really not. It's really not what people subscribe to my channel for. And so outside of if I really get like a bug up my ass about like, no shit, I want to do this. I don't care if I take a hit. I want to do it. It's probably not going to happen, much as I would want to. Okay, Noah West. Question 1. How much community help will you ask for or accept during your Elden Ring streams? Honestly, I don't mind spoilers. Like, I prefer if people don't say, oh yeah, this boss who's called that and who's like, if it was like, Brandon, like the Fireblade guy, and you tell me, oh, Brandon the Fireblade, he's over there behind that puzzle where you have to go to that thing and that thing and that thing, and he's the son of this guy and he's related to this person, like that level of spoilers, I'd rather not. But if it's just like, hey, if you go over in this direction over there, or if you go to the cave that's in this place, there's something cool there, absolutely tell me. Like, if it's just like, hey, there's a cool thing you can go and see and it's over there, oh, hell yeah, thank you. Basically, please to do that. Please do that. Question 2. Would you accept doing Sekiro boss designs with patron-submitted footage? If so, I can record any and all footage you desire. Yeah, I'm gonna say a blank no to that one. The reason why I'm not really currently intending on doing the boss designs of Sekiro isn't that it's not that I feel like I can't complete the game. I can beat Sekiro. I have been gaming for like the better part of 30 years at this point. I can beat Sekiro. That's not the issue. The issue is Sekiro is based on an aesthetic and on a folklore and a mythical tradition that I'm not very familiar with. Like, I talk relatively confidently about Souls games and Elden Ring and Bloodborne, because it's all drawing from an aesthetic tradition that I'm deeply familiar with. Sekiro is like, that's based on Japanese mythology and like sort of deeply drawing from concepts that are drawn out of Buddhism and Shintoism and all these things. And I don't have the resources to research all of that. And I also, I just don't feel confident talking about it, at least not right now. That's why I'm not doing it. So it's not about not being able to get the footage. No, like, that's not a problem. I will beat Sekiro. Don't you worry about that if I ever decide to go back and do it. It's a question of whether I feel like I can contribute something useful by talking about it, and I'm not sure I can. Angel, outside of content creation, do you have any other hobbies or things you like to do? Travel, crafts, art, reading? I mean, does anyone have a travel hobby after the last couple of years? I sure as fuck like getting in a metal tube that hurtles through the sky with like 100 other people, any of whom might be a fucking disease vector. I think the fuck not. I'm joking a little bit. I know it's not that dangerous. I am triple vaxxed. You know, it's not that I'm scared of it. It's that I've never been able to afford to travel. But if you're asking, like, you know, I am an artist. I do draw for fun sometimes when I have time. I read plenty of books. God, I keep buying more books on Kindle that I just don't have time to read. I picked up one recently. Let me just check. Which looked really interesting. I have it on my app here. What's it called? Because it's by someone I follow on Twitter, actually. Yeah, it's Jennifer Giesbrecht, The Monster of Elendhaven, which seemed like it's sort of slightly Bloodborne-ish, like in that same aesthetic vibe, a little bit. I picked up one called She Who Became the Sun recently by Shelley Parker Chan, which I've been anxious to read. T.J. Klune's The House in the Cerulean Sea is one I've picked up. I haven't read that much of it yet. And I'm picking up manga all the time, also on Kindle, because that's the easiest way to pay for it. Let's see. I think Our Son is Gay is one that I found quite interesting, because like it's a sort of very frank look at LGBT situations. from a Japanese perspective, which is something that you don't always get to see a lot. Campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill is a fantastic isekai manga. Like it's really genuinely really good. First of all, because the artwork is absolutely fucking aces. Like I really just adore the ink style of this comic, and also it's just a cool concept because it's like a normal dude gets isekai'd and then his cheat skill isn't that he has like super magic powers or whatever. It's that he has the ability to access online supermarkets back in the real world, where he can just like buy any ingredients that he wants and then cook them. And like his food is so delicious in this fantasy world that it gives people like extra special, like it just gives them huge buffs and make them super powerful. And so he's able to sort of get by with that. Like he befriends like a powerful wolf god that's sort of like, oh god, your food is so good, I'll do anything for you. And I really like that one. So yeah, like I have other hobbies, although most of my time is taken up with gaming, both for pleasure and for work. Duda asks me, what's your favorite genre of music, seeing as you sing a lot in your Elden Ring live streams? It got me curious. I mean, I'm one of those people who used to say, oh, I listen to everything, except that's not true. Like, there's plenty of genres I don't listen to. Like, I've never been able to get into math rock. I've never been able to get into, like, improvisational free jazz, for example. Like, not really my kind of thing. I don't listen to a lot of rap and hip-hop either. It's just not... For whatever reason, that's just one of those genres that doesn't grab me very much. I don't have anything against it. It's just, you know. But, again, you're asking me to pick favorites, and I can do that because I'm bad at it. If you're looking for recommendations, let me see. What did I recently pick up for music? Oh yeah, Willow Smith's recent album, Lately I Feel Everything. Really fucking good. Absolutely recommend that one. There is yeah, like this is not really recent, but Miley Cyrus's Plastic Hearts is an absolutely fantastic album that I sort of got into relatively recently. Incubus, and I didn't know this for a long time, a little while ago, put out another EP, Trustfall, Side B, which has some fantastic songs on it. Let's see. What else? Oh, right. A group called Look Far put out a album called Tales from the Disc, and it's I think it's Louis Jean on YouTube as well, where they did a bunch of mostly instrumental music based around the Discworld universe, which I really enjoyed. It's sort of folky, folk music, that sort of thing. What else we got? Not much. Nah, not much other than that. But yeah, I listen to a crap ton of different things. I don't think I have a favorite genre because I don't have favorites of anything. But that's some of it. Daniel Alves, do you think the process of reviewing footage, editing, and writing analysis impacts your interpretation of the games you play? If so, how much? Absolutely. Deeply. Because, like, I don't... when I play games casually just for myself, I'm not sitting around analyzing them. Like, I'm not sitting around, like, sort of very critically looking at things. Oh, yes, like, oh, the texture work on this. Oh, I know, like, there's some thematic resonance between... Like, I don't do that. That's not how I approach all media I enjoy. That's how I approach media I enjoy for work. So, like, Elden Ring and Dark Souls and that stuff, yes, absolutely, when I review the footage, when I edit it, when I write the analysis, when I like paying attention to what happens around me rather than just seeing what happens in the moment of the gameplay, absolutely. It impacts everything about my interpretation. Like, for example, noticing in the first episode of Boss Descents of Elden Ring, noticing that Melina was wearing a ring, and sort of relating that back to, okay, we have like this theme of rings that's present in the game in general, and then also this thing of like, you kind of are betrothed to her. Like, she offers you a compact, like a deal, and seals that offer with a ring, which is like, oh, that's a betrothal of some kind. Like, all that stuff, relating that stuff back to things. I probably wouldn't have done that if I was playing casually. Like, I wouldn't have bothered to pay enough attention to notice that, because I'd just be, let's run around fit things with swords, whee! So no, yeah, it impacts it massively. Like, it's an approach. Like, it's a way to approach media. It's a specific way to approach media. It's not just my ground state of being. It's a choice I make to be so analytical about the things I play. Jadara, favorite song cover you have done? Again, picking favorites. I mean, I hate all of them. I'm sorry. I like the song covers that I do for approximately 1 or 2 weeks after I have done them, at which point I listen to them and I just go, oh, I missed that note. Oh, that one wasn't quite. My voice wavered a little bit there. Oh, that didn't sound quite right. Oh, I should have mixed that differently. So like I don't really like any of them, if I'm quite honest. I suppose I'm kind of pleased with my cover of Here, There, and Everywhere by the Beatles. Like, that's one where if like, oh hey, like I kind of nailed those harmonies sometimes, so that's nice. But no, I don't really like any of them. That's why I don't put out very many of them, is because I record something and then I spend some time editing it, and like there's a decent chance that before I'm done putting it together, my brain will already have switched over to, no, I hate this. This is shit. This is terrible. I hate everything about this. And then I can't get myself to post it. So like for me, it's always a struggle to even put it online. Classic. How do you feel about Emboar, and why is it the coolest and most cohesive Firestarter? Oh man, Emboar. I'm excited to get them. Like it's definitely cohesive. Like I really do agree with you on that one. It's definitely one of the most cohesive evolutionary lines. Like it has this very clear progression, like rooted in. I think it's sort of ukiyo-e, sort of Chinese, Korean, Japanese aesthetic of ink drawing that I really like the way they render flames around Emboar's body. Absolutely. It's definitely a very, very cohesive Firestarter. Is it the coolest one? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Coolest? It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. But it's the coolest one? Your mileage may vary, your opinion may vary. It's Blaziken is the coolest one. But it's definitely one of the most cohesive evolutionary lines in the game. I agree with you on that one. Holly, what are some characters that you think might be role models of non-toxic masculinity? Good male role models in media culture today, basically. I mean, it's if you look, like, don't go looking for it in the MCU, because there aren't any. Like Steve Rogers, sorta, kinda, but he's still, like, yeah, no, because if what you're asking for is media role models that reject the traditions of masculinity and the toxicities of masculinity, I'm hard-pressed to name one that you would know, because most of the ones that come to mind for me are ones that, like, don't really, like, it's not that they model non-toxic masculinity so much as it's that their stories are about confronting the consequences of that kind of toxic masculinity. Anakin Skywalker comes to mind. Kylo Ren. Like, both of those characters are not at all non-toxic, but their stories are to various degrees about confronting toxic masculinity. Until Rise of Skywalker, at which point Kylo Ren ceases to be a character and just becomes like a plot device, but this is a different discussion. Sam Vimes from the Discworld novels is a pretty good example of a character who confronts like the realities of that kind of toxic masculinity and sort of and stares it in the eye, and like, again, he doesn't like transcend it or anything, but like it's a story. His stories tend to be stories that in some way deal with it, like and talk about it. Thinking about stuff that, like, I'm trying to think of something that a person might reasonably, because like I'm thinking of like novels I read as a kid by authors whose names I can't remember anymore. And like, yeah, I mean, oh, actually, I have one. Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. Not necessarily the remake. We don't know how that's gonna go, but the original Final Fantasy VII. Cloud Strife, by the end of it? No, yeah, like, by the end of it, look at Cloud, how he behaves by the end of the game, and like, the way that his character develops. Absolutely. Like, there's one that and again, it's less about he isn't toxic so much as it is he confronts his toxicity and like, confronts the ways in which he's been hurting himself. And sort of comes to grips with it. But yeah, no, like, in terms of really good representations of that, like, I think Our Flag Means Death, which is the new Taika Waititi series, that's more hearsay. I've heard that that's a series where they really sort of dig into and confront that kind of masculinity and showcase what a different kind of masculinity could be that is not ridiculed. So that's cool. But no, I'm sorry, I can't really give you any super great examples off the top of my head, because, you know, the legacy of that kind of masculinity seeps into the foundations of every depiction of masculinity that you'll ever see in your life. So, you know. Lawrence Whalen asks, hello, fellow enjoyer of sci-fi and fantasy literature. I've been working the past few years to seek out non-white male and non-white authors. Check out the 5th season if you have. Are there any marginalized authors you enjoy or recommend? Well, I kind of go back to some of the novels I already mentioned. There's also actually, I have a thing I can recommend to you. There is a collection of books, or a collection of stories called Falstaff Pride 2020, a celebration of the title is so long. Falstaff Pride 2020, a celebration of LGBTQIA plus authors, which is a fantasy story collection by just a whole bunch of like, if you're looking for like marginalized voices to listen to, it's this wonderful, enormous collection of fantasy stories by marginalized authors all put together. I don't know if it was like a time limited thing, if you can still buy it or whatever. But that collection, absolutely, 100% recommend that one, because there's some great fantasy stories in there. It's a good way to discover, like, seeking out those compilations, those collections is a great way to discover new authors like that. Oh, okay. All right, okay. Frosting the Birthday Clown, which I hope is a name and not a suggestion. Are you a clown lover or clown fearer? Also, any TV shows you're currently enjoying? I feel like whatever I answer to that first question is going to be the wrong answer. So I'll just say that aesthetically, clowns are pretty cool. And I'll leave it at that. As for TV shows I'm currently enjoying, no, I don't have time. I haven't had time to get into any TV shows. Like, there's anime. Like, I've been watching My Dress Up Darling, which I think is a fantastic anime. I've read the manga on that one as well, so, you know, that's... But I think that's the only anime I'm really following this season, so, yeah. Like, no, not a lot of TV shows going on. Please don't come for me in the night. Squirrel Sword, I'd like to thank you for putting being aromantic into words. Like, I could never thank you. That said, what is your go-to food when you want to snack but don't want to cook or make too much effort? Well, you're welcome. And also... chips? You're asking for food, not junk food. Yeah, I mean, I just make open-top sandwiches, which is like... Which, I think that's maybe not so much a thing, in the rest of the world as it is here in Denmark, but like you take some rye bread. In my case, it's gluten-free rye bread because god damn it, my goddamn digestive system. And you just put some stuff on it, like liver pate or cheese or sausage. Ooh, like some excellent sausages. You can get like a pepper chili sausage with like red wine, like very good. Good things, but that's the sort of thing. If I just like, I just want some nice food. That stuff. Emboar with 3 questions. Question 1: how long does it usually take you to edit a video that you've streamed, and what is your favorite part of it other than recording? I used to record and post stuff, and I stopped because editing took so long that I didn't have time on top of my other job. Yeah, that happens. It sort of depends. Like, if I'm editing something for the Let's Play channel over on Tubi's Guide, like, I have a very specific rule that I only do the most basic kind of editing for those videos when I'm editing them myself. So that's just like, I just identify long periods of silence, or, oh yeah, this is a section where I'm just like fighting some monsters over and over again that doesn't matter. Like, I'll cut that out. And it's just very quick cuts, like that, with minimal amounts of editing on top of it. If you're talking about like Elden Ring or boss designs of Dark Souls kind of thing, oh boy, that can take a very, very long time indeed. Yeah, it takes longer to edit a video than it does to record it. That's for damn sure. But it's also creatively very fulfilling for me. Like I really, really enjoy picking out footage and like creating a flow through an episode and like layering edits on top of that, like text edits and boxes and things that aid the flow, that aid the visual storytelling. Like that to me is really creatively fulfilling, which is why I enjoy doing it. So yeah, but how long does it usually take you? Like for every 10 minutes of footage that I manage to edit is at least a couple of hours. Like that's a rough calculation you can go by there. So when you watch me post an hour-long video of edited content for a Boston Sunset Dark Souls, like yeah, it's many hours. It's a lot of hours goes into making that, and I am not making even minimum wage for doing it, at least in terms of ad revenue. So yeah, I can't say I blame you for not continuing with that, because it's a very bad value proposition in terms of how you spend your time if you need to make rent. Question 2, do you plan on doing any more readings on your channel, like the video on the fanfiction you wrote? Yes, maybe? Like the Soraka Olaf fanfiction thing was... I had a sponsorship slot that came up that I needed to fill. Like, I needed to put out a video because I needed to fulfill my contractual obligation to make that sponsorship integration. And I didn't have anything. Like, I had absolutely fuck all else. Except I had, like, I'd recently had this thing of, like, this idea came into my head and it wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, fuck it, fine, I'll write it down. I was like, okay, I'll read that fanfic, I guess, like, because it really just needed to be a video of any kind. And like, I wish I could say it was less cynical than that, but that's what it was. It was, I need to put something out. Fuck it, let's just grab whatever. So, you know, and the fact that people enjoyed it and liked it was certainly encouraging in terms of if I wanted to do that more or again, but I don't have anything planned because that stuff was never part of my plans, and it's not something I don't have any backlog of ideas, and I don't write that often because I don't have time. So I'm not saying no, it's just don't wait up for it. Last question, have you ever seen the cartoon Pantheon Stalking? If so, what's your opinion on it? If not, I recommend it as some animation that has a focus on sexual themes, but also character realization and acceptance of self. It's kind of old. Oh, I watched Pantheon Stalking. I waited for the Season 2 announcement for so long! Of course I watched Pantheon Stalking. It rules. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It's so vulgar and disgusting and fucked up and fun. Like, it's just a good time. It's deeply problematic, in case anyone's keeping track. Very problematic, definitely. And I love it, even though it's problematic and has problems. Because it's so cool and so much fun. It's just so enjoyable. So yeah, I have definitely watched it. Small Leviathan. I love Splatoon. I love Splatoon so much that I not only moderate a Splatoon Discord server, but I also run a Splatoon fashion blog on Tumblr. Do you have any thoughts on that series, commenting on its aesthetic, gameplay, story, or otherwise? And, oh, man, I wish I could tell you more. Except, no, I don't really. Because I don't really know enough about street fashion to have an opinion on Splatoon's fashion aesthetic. Outside of, it's slick and it's cool, and I enjoy it. I haven't played Splatoon, really, since Splatoon 2, which I never finished. And in terms of the story, it's like, I don't remember it. I remember that in Splatoon 2, Maria or Callie or something, one of them went evil because of mind control. I think. I don't, yeah, no, I'm not connected enough to Splatoon to have any interesting or worthwhile opinions on it. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more than that, except that I think it has a very cool aesthetic. Like, I really enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic IP. But I think that from the outside. So, Annie again. Would you ever consider playing Octopath Traveler? I already have. Not for content, I just played it. Because I bought it when it came out and I played it for a good long while. I never finished it. But I don't think I'll make content about it, though, because it's so big and long. Don't take that out of context. But it's a huge game, and I don't know that there's a huge amount of fan base in it, that, like, in terms of an audience. So, since you're playing the many Final Fantasy games, would you play 13? It's one of my favorite games, even though it has such a bad rep. Or do you not like it, and would you rather skip it? Oh, I wouldn't skip it. But I have some I have some critical opinions on it. I do consider 13 the worst Final Fantasy. Not necessarily that it's a bad game on its own. I don't think it is. I think it's a bad entry into the Final Fantasy series. And, like, maybe I'll play it on the channel at some point or another. Like, my Let's Play channel is always going to be second priority. It's not how I make my money, unfortunately. So, you know, so I play whatever games over there. It's more of a that's a channel I maintain more for the pleasure of it. So it's a thing of, like, if a new game comes out and I just want to play that, I'm not gonna put that off in order to play an old Final Fantasy game. So, you know, so I again wouldn't hold my breath for it, but sure, it could happen. But no, I don't think Final Fantasy 13 is a bad game. I think it's a bad Final Fantasy game, which are not quite the same thing. RC Scooter with 3 questions. Question 1, how familiar are you with the story of Kingdom Hearts, and if so, any thoughts on how it's told? I personally stand in the camp of it got really out of hand after the first game and seems utterly incomprehensible now. Well, I mean, my hot take on the Kingdom Hearts story is that it's not complicated at all. Like, not even a little bit. Like, it's an incredibly simple story, and it's incredibly easy to follow. What's difficult, what Kingdom Hearts' story is convoluted. Like, there's just a lot of it, and it's not complicated, it's just superficially complex in the sense of, like, you have, like, the Organization 13 and the fake Organization 13 and the Heartless and the Nobodies and the Unversed, and there's Sora, and Sora's 14 billion clones. Like, it's a lot of stuff, it's a lot of characters, it's a lot of plot lines, it's a lot of conspiracies, like lots of dark conspiracies, like, oh, people scheming behind the scenes. But the core of Kingdom Hearts, the story, is as simple as any of the Disney movies that it takes place inside of bad recaps of, which is there is light and there is dark. And the light is all the good stuff, where you're nice and you like people and friendship and happiness and good feelings and being kind to each other. And the darkness is anger and rage and resentment and selfishness and rah rah. And it's a conflict between light and dark, where the dark constantly dresses up in the classic edge, like, no, the real truth of the universe is darkness, like, cynicism is the only thing that's true. And then, like, Sora comes along, no, actually, optimism is true, my friends are my power, and then he wins. Like that, when you look at any Kingdom Hearts story, even Kingdom Hearts 3, which is the most convoluted of all of them, that's what the story is there's light and there's dark, and good things and niceness and friendship and connection and kindness and love win, and evil and darkness and badness and hate and selfishness and cruelty and anger lose. That's it. Like, that is the story of Kingdom Hearts. That's my hot take on it anyway. And and I think a lot of sort of mimetic hay has been made of, oh, Kingdom Hearts, the story, it's so incomprehensible. And, like, yeah, it's incomprehensible if you read it like you would a Wikipedia article. Like, if you read it like you would read the wiki. If you go on the Kingdom Hearts wiki and you try and catch up on what's going on in the game, yeah, it's absolutely incomprehensible nonsense. Like, it is way out of hand, and none of it makes any goddamn sense. But that's not how you should experience the story of Kingdom Hearts. You should experience the story of Kingdom Hearts by playing the games. And when you play the games, it's like, oh, no, yeah, here are the good guys, here are the bad guys, and then the good guys and the bad guys fight, and then the good guys win, even though it seems hopeless because the bad guys hold all the cards and whatever. Like, that's very consistently the structure of Kingdom Hearts games. And that's consistent all throughout, like, pretty much every single mainline game. Chain of Memories, 358 over 2 days, which is probably the worst Kingdom Hearts game, and Dream Drop Distance. Yeah, like, I don't think they're complicated. I think they're convoluted and superficially complex. Question 2, what is about Kermit the Frog, in your opinion, that makes him such an iconic design? Time. Kermit has been around for a very long time, and we all grew up with him, every single human being on the goddamn planet at some... Well, okay, that's maybe overstating it a little bit, but, like, everyone in the country where I live, and every American, and pretty much every European has seen Kermit the Frog as part of their formative childhood. And that's a big deal, because that means he gets injected into your forming aesthetic brain and becomes part of the foundation of how you think about aesthetics and character design, whether you realize it or not. And yeah, so like that's a big part of the reason why is that he's been around for a really long time and he's become incredibly recognizable to you because you're deeply familiar with him. It also helps that he's a simplistic design, like in the same way that like Disney can draw the 3 circles and then you have Mickey Mouse ears and everyone knows Mickey Mouse ears. You get Kermit's design, which is like very simplistic because he's a puppet. Like he was meant to be a very simple little puppet that would read well on low resolution television. So he has like a very simple design. Like he's made of a couple of simple wedge shapes with a couple of like round eyes glued onto there and the little collar with spikes. And that's really all you need in order to create a familiarity, and simplicity is the sort of thing that tends to create the stuff that we call iconic designs. Question 3, who has been your favorite boss to fight in each of the FromSoft games you played thus far? Sorry, I can't answer that one. People have asked me this question a million times, and I don't have any answers for you. I really liked the Ludwig fight. I don't know if it's my favorite Bloodborne fight, because the Orphan is good too, and Maria. And I really like the Gascoigne fight. Like, that's all you're gonna get out of me. It's just like, I'm gonna list some things that I liked, none of which are my favorite. Like, Gwyn is a really great boss fight in Dark Souls 1, so is Sif, and Artorias is a great boss fight in Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 2, the Pursuer is fun, especially the first time you fight him. I really enjoyed fighting Oldia. Like, it's just because it's so different. Like, I don't know if it's a very good boss fight, but it's a very different boss fight, which I enjoyed. So, like, no, yeah, sorry, I can't give you a good answer to that, because I can't pick favorites. I just can't. I'm sorry. Cyberus the Third. Are you still making half-time work as a comic illustration maker, or is YouTube your full-time job? YouTube is my full-time job, yes. It took over, like, it was an economic thing of, like, YouTube started making me a lot more money than I was ever making ever as a cartoonist and illustrator. And so economic necessity is kind of that I need to do YouTube then, because that's where the money is. Which is, you know, not that I particularly enjoy being craven in that way about my creative pursuits, because like for a very long time my ambition was I want to be a comic artist. Like that was what I wanted to do for a long time. I had dreams of making a living with a webcomic, and those dreams are dead now, and so is my soul. No. It's like, I'm a YouTuber full-time because that's where I make my money, and on top of that, I find it creatively fulfilling as well, which is good. If I didn't, I wouldn't have kept going with it. But I find this creatively fulfilling also, in many of the same ways that I find comics creatively fulfilling. So, that's the job. Starry-eyed input. This month I've got Final Fantasy VII Remake on the brain and was wondering if you had additional thoughts since you streamed it about the Yuffie DLC, perhaps. I haven't played the Yuffie DLC yet. Once it came out on PC, I bought it and I started up a new save and I'm sort of working my way through that, and eventually I'll do the Yuffie DLC on that one, but I'm not there yet because I don't have time to play a lot of casual games. And any additional thoughts since you streamed it? God, so many. Like, mostly refinements and reiterations of my general opinions on that game, which is that, like, holy shit. Like, they actually took the most iconic RPG of the last 20 years. Whether it deserves it or not, whether it's overrated or not, like, the JRPG, like, the game that people think of when they think of JRPGs and, like, the rise of JRPGs as a creative force in the industry. And they said, oh, yeah, here's the faithful remake you've been asking for 30 years, or 20 years at this point. And, you know, psych! Fooled you! It's not a faithful remake at all. We're doing our own fucking thing. Fuck you! Like, the sheer balls on the Squaresoft creative team to do that. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I'm so happy that they've done that, that they just, like, they ended the first part of the remake by just flipping 2 middle fingers while driving a motorcycle off like an exploding ramp. Like, shouting, suck my dick. I have so much respect for that, because that must have been a really fucking difficult thing to do when you know what the audience was expecting was a faithful remake, and then to go at the very last minute and go, nah, we're doing our own thing. Like, this is not a remake, this is a reaction. Like, this is a commentary, this is a reaction. This is Final Fantasy VII Meta Edition looking in on itself and making decisions about its own legacy. And I hope they stick with it. Like, I hope they are not discouraged by the response. Like, I hope that Squaresoft didn't come to them, oh, you took a few too many creative risks on that one. We want something that's economically safe. Do a faithful remake instead. I hope they don't do that. I hope they go weird. I hope they go fucked up. I hope they mess this shit around. That's what I want from it. And that's been mostly what I've been thinking about. Also, just Jessie, like how brilliant they were with Jessie, Wedge, and Biggs as characters, how brilliantly they used them. Because in the first game, Jessie, Wedge, and Biggs are not much. Like, they're sort of, oh yeah, they're your Avalanche comrades, but they die in like the first hour of the game, essentially. Well, depending on how fast you play. I play it pretty fast these days. They die very soon, and it's like, oh shit, this is the moment, like, when the plate falls and Shinra kills a bunch of NPCs that you've come to know. That's the moment where you kind of go, oh shit, these people mean business. These people are actually super duper evil. Like that, and that's all they really are in the original, is just this plot device to make it clear to the player that, hey, Shinra's evil, actually. Really super evil. Like, not just normal evil, but super duper extra special evil with evil sauce on top. And they don't really get to be characters that much. And what the remake does, that's brilliant, is that it makes them into characters. We learn about Jessie's life. Especially Jessie is characterized. Like, she's this flirty, horny, fun, just kind of adorable, cheerful girl, but who's playing a game the whole time. Like, as Wedge tells you, like, Jessie's flirting. Like, boy howdy, she's going for that dick. Like, boy, she wants that soldier dick so hard. Like, she flirts so much with Cloud, but as Wedge points out, it's a game. Like, it's, yeah, she's extremely flirty, and she's very open about, like, her interest, and she's very this kind of character, but it's a game that she's playing. It's an act. It's an act that she's playing. And what you learn about her is that she is an actress. Like, that's who she is as a person, is an actress who has this dream, this ambition of being exactly the character that she's playing as part of her activities with Avalanche. And that's an act that she puts on over the top of a lot of insecurity and a lot of anger and a lot of pain, like with the things that have happened to her father, and like the ways that Shinra have treated the world. Like there's a lot of depth there to that character. That what I was afraid of when I first met her is that they just turn her into like a sex pot. Like, they just turn her into the horny girl who flirts. And then you get all these extra layers of character on top of that. Especially, like, it's really heartbreaking. The scene where she has Cloud break into her house to steal her dad's access card. Like, lying to her mother the whole time. Like, that's, boy, like, Jessie is making some sacrifices for the cause. Like, it's, you sort of get a sense, really, of how much she's giving up. Like, as an actress, among other things. Like, she gave up her career, she gave up her home life, she gave up, like, her connection to her family, really, to do what she does with Avalanche, you know? And the same thing with Biggs. Like, he's this really sweet, soft boy school teacher who, like, works at an orphanage kind of thing. Like this really just sort of like, oh, like a little soft wooby boy. And then, like, the way that he behaves with Avalanche is one of like really committed militarism, which is like, oh, okay, interesting. Like, there's more to him there. And the same thing with Wedge. And then the game uses the fact that it has built these characters up, that it has made you connect with them, and made you see them as more fully realized people, and says, hey, if we proceed, if we make a faithful remake of Final Fantasy VII, they're gonna fucking die. You can have that, sure. We can make the faithful Final Fantasy VII remake, but these wonderful characters, these characters that you love, who clearly have so much more to offer you, who are so interesting, so fun, they're gonna fucking die. We're gonna kill them right in front of you if we give you the faithful remake. If we don't get the faithful remake, though, maybe things could be different. Maybe you could get to hear some stories that you've never heard before. Maybe you could get to see some characters in a light that you've never been able to see it before. Maybe you could learn something new about the world of Final Fantasy VII if we don't do the Faithful Remake. Like, it's deeply manipulative. Like, it's so much fun. Because, like, they really just dangle Jesse, Biggs, and to an extent Wedge in front of you as like, hey, go along with us. Come along for the ride on the non-Faithful Remake. And things will turn out differently for these characters that you love. They even do it with Zack. Like, fucking Zack, who is dead as a doornail in Final Fantasy VII, the original, they tease that he could still be alive in the remake. Like, some weird something, like, it's not 100% for sure, but, like, they tease that he ain't dead and that you could run into him at some point, which, like, yep, I want to see Cloud run into Zack. I want to see them run into each other and talk. I want to see them meet. Yes, please give me that. I want that. I want that alternate universe. And that, fuck, they're good at it. Holy shit, they're good at it. I love the remake so much. Okay, Plaid Max asks, do you have any fantasy book series recommendations? Do you usually read physical books, ebooks, or audiobooks? Discworld, read Discworld, just read Discworld. If you haven't already, read Discworld. Also, Ursula K. Le Guin's Wizard of Earthsea is a classic. If you haven't read it, you should. Don't read the Wizard books. Don't do that. It's not worth it. I've tried to reread them, and no, they are poisoned and tainted forever. I'm sorry. They're dead. Never read them. Yeah, like, I've already given some book recommendations, and I usually read physical books when I can, but most of the new books I get these days are ebooks because it's just easier. Like, I can have them all on my phone instead of, like, so I can read them on the train or when I'm doing laundry or whatever, instead of having to bring an actual book. I almost never use audiobooks. I don't have the patience for it. I read a lot faster than audiobooks talk. And I don't have the patience to wait for the author to like fucking hurry up and get to the next sentence. I'm there already. So I don't have the patience for it. Salomon, will you ever open up for commissions anytime soon? Yeah. I wish I could. I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do commissions. I'll occasionally take a commission for a friend of mine. Like, people who I know, like, on a personal level, who, like, hey, I'd love some art from you for this. Like, occasionally I'll do that, because I can make time for a friend, you know? But as a general business thing, sorry. It's just, I don't have time. So I wouldn't hold your breath for that. Like, unless you're willing to offer me a lot of money, more than my art is worth, if I'm quite honest. No, not anytime soon. And then there's Plague Amon, who has a couple of questions. Are you still planning to catch up on Legends of Runeterra card overview streams? Are you planning on continue to do such streams in general? Yes. I still want to do it, but, like, I have Elden Ring. I have some sponsorship obligations that I'm fighting with right now. I've been trying to build back up my shorts so that they can keep running without interruptions over on my shorts channel, which has more subscribers than my main channel at this point. It's like the move ground everything in my life to a complete halt, and spinning it all up and getting it all moving again is not easy. That's taken me a good long while. So yeah, I'll want to return to it, but when I have time. Question 2. When Cho'gath is eventually reworked, what direction would you like Riot to take his new design and lore, and where would you place him in the world of Runeterra since he's conceptualized as such a big threat to the world? I've heard ideas to either make him a kaiju void sea monster in Bilgewater, or a cosmic rival to Aurelion Sol, but I'm curious about your take on what should be done with him. Well, I could tell you, but it might spoil a future video. So I'll just say that I have a take on this, and I lean more towards kaiju. Not a sea monster, but kaiju. And you'll see, I think, is the answer. I'm sorry, I wish I could give you a better, more fulfilling answer to that one, but I genuinely might be spoiling a video, so. Yeah. And that's about all of them, I think. So, hey, I've managed to get one in under an hour. Thank you for listening to me rabble on about questions from my patrons. If you want to ask me one, channel memberships on the Shorts channel or the Let's Play channel, or you can donate one time to my coffee and you'll get access to the Discord, or you can Patreon Patreon subscriber. And that'll all give you the ability to ask questions for these things. If there's some stuff you want me to talk about, that's an option for you can do that. Thanks for watching. Have a nice time. Have a good day. I should really have a better outro for these.